Yeah, I don't think we should. Hey,
Oh my
everyone
gosh.
from
Love
all the
wild.
corners of the globe. Here from the UK, Canada, and the US. Not all the corners, but some of the corners.
You know,
Just the Western
the Earth
Hemisphere.
doesn't have corners, Caroline. It's a sphere.
Well, it's
Technically-
just a saying. It's
pear-shaped.
just
Technically not-
a saying. I didn't coin the phrase.
Hi, Squeaks. Early appearance.
What?
That's hilarious.
Yikes. That's hilarious.
Do you have
Well,
something to say?
this weekend was the British Grand Prix held at Silverstone. Lots of events. My personal favorite was Lando punching the bee in his post-race interview. That was my personal favorite.
Save
It
the
was
bees,
so much
Lando.
I know.
You save the bees. Seb wouldn't be happy with that.
I know.
Oh.
Yeah, it really. I want to know the thought process behind punching the bee or just step aside.
Well, I
Was
think
it-
that like it was pestering him at the beginning, and he kind of like tried to like swat at it, and it was when it came back, and I don't think he made contact. I've rewatched it a few times. I don't think he made contact. I think it was just like a warning punch, if you will, and then the bee said, "All right, message received."
Caroline,
On
you're
we
talking
go.
like you're like the stewards. You had to rewatch it a few times.
Yeah, I did. I watched it back for the sake of the bees. I speak
No,
for
no
the
penalty
bees.
applied.
No penalty. He deserves the podium position. Sebastian Vettel approved. All the 9 yards. No, but really, on track. What did we think, people?
The amount I screamed when Lando took the lead, my heart rate, oh my word, like right off the bat, kind of the most exciting thing that happened all race happened right in the beginning, and then you were just like, oh wait, back to regularly scheduled programming, but still, like hearing it through the television of just like, oh my goodness, people are excited, goodness gracious.
Well, and as soon as he got that really good start, I was screaming, but then I was like, Oscar might get him too. Like there was a moment where I was like, both McLarens might get him right now. That would be insane, but then it didn't happen.
He's so funny.
But when Oscar dove down the inside, I was like, dang, he's really sending it. He's just going.
Yeah. It was
So.
so good. And
Anyway.
the McLarens are also bringing more upgrades next week and a massive upgrade package post-summer, which I mean, everybody's doing that. And Red Bull are also bringing an upgrade package, so like, whatever. But still, more is to come.
We love it.
I'm excited.
Because Red
I'm
Bull
like,
really need that upgrade package,
Ah.
right?
they
Did you
really
guys see the
don't.
picture of Adrian Newey just like staring down the McLaren before the
Yeah.
race?
Every masterpiece is a cheap knockoff, as they say.
Ah, yikes.
It's very true. But I made a little spreadsheet, and by little I mean it's like 3-4 pages long at this point. But it's a spreadsheet where I can input like average finishes and the numbers and be like, okay, what position do these teams need to finish in order to get whatever in the constructors or whatever in the drivers' championships, right?
Yeah.
And McLaren still have enough time to stage a full-on recovery, like end on the end of season podium kind of a thing.
Wait. Like to win it all?
No.
Oh,
To like end in the
that
top
seems
3.
crazy.
not to win the whole thing. The whole thing is going to the whole thing is going to Red Bull. Although there is actually a scenario. There was a Logan Sargent fan who was like, "Can Logan still win it all?" And I was like, "Actually, yes. If Max gets no points for the rest of the season and Logan wins everything, he'll win the whole like drivers' championship by Mexico." So,
Wow. Well,
alternate universe in one of the
Yeah.
timelines
There
that
is
might
there
have
is a one
happened.
timeline out there.
Exactly. Long story short, though, your hope for McLaren can be ignited because based on the numbers, if my math is right,
yeah.
it's the window.
That's insane.
It's
That's the
possible.
dangerous level of hope, though. That's like the dangerous level of hope that Charles Leclerc gave us last year that like he could maybe potentially win the drivers' championship. That killed me more inside, I think, than anything else that has happened in
hope
my
that
history of
kills ya.
Formula One. Yes, it really killed me.
I
by the
honestly
end.
need a Ferrari merch shirt that just says it's the hope that kills you.
Honestly. Trademark. You heard it here first, people on the
Trademark
live
that, yeah.
stream. Gravel Trap F1. Christina. She came up with that one.
Dibs.
Yes.
Do we want? Would any of these teams, like for instance, Williams and McLaren, have made massive inroads this last race, right? And like you're saying, they projected they still have time to make it up into the top 3 or something. That's going to hurt their aero allowance for the next year. Would they want to maybe not try and get that high so that they could have a little bit more aero allowance so that the next year they could really leap?
I would say no. In my mind, at least, what matters most is getting your good base down, because after that, it's just fine tuning, which is why they set up the aero time specifically the way they set them up, is that Red Bull have it down packed, so now they're just fine tuning. At the end of the day, like, I don't think that that's something the team particularly worries about, of just like, don't get higher up, like, don't do that. I don't think that teams would have that mindset necessarily.
Yeah, I think they choose the money before they choose the
yeah.
the aero time, especially since if they're placing higher by the end of the season, it means that they figured something out with their car and that their car is in a good place. So then you're just building from that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's actually a compliment to have less aero time.
Yeah.
But Williams jumped like 3 spots in the constructors? 2 spots?
They went from like 9th to 7th or something like that.
We love to
But
see it.
overall, their pace throughout the weekend, you know, Albon finishing top 3 in both free practices, that was something.
Yes.
Wow.
That was hope that almost killed me. I told myself, I said, don't go there.
Quiet.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. And even though Logan didn't finish in the points, I actually felt like it was still a really good finish for him.
It was his season's best finish, wasn't
Yeah.
it? 11th?
Yeah. Yeah.
After the penalty?
Yes. Yes. Very exciting. Alex Albon. King. But how about them Ferraris though? Talking about the hope that dies.
They were looking so good, and then you just watch them like in a pair, like in tandem, sticking
together.
going like, plunk.
Well, and then that one lap, Carlos, I legitimately thought there was something wrong with his car when he was overtaken by 3 people in like
All
one
at
sector.
once.
I was like, something is wrong. Something's on fire. Something is broken. This can't be happening. And everyone told me, they're like, oh, there is tires. I don't want to hear it. The McLarens were on hards, and they were fine. Something was wrong.
Honestly, it was just a level of embarrassing that like, it just
Side eye.
Yeah. Kind of like when they said Plan B, and Carlos was like, which one was that one?
That
Was that a
really
joke?
embarrassing.
Do you think that was a joke or was that real?
Oh, yeah, I'm assuming it's real because he sounded so exasperated. Just like,
Yeah.
which one? Like,
Yeah.
what was that?
Yeah.
Carlos deciding to ignore everything but Plan A. It's like, there is no Plan B. There's only Plan A. He's turning into Miranda Priestley, and I kind of love it.
The chat is giving a lot of love towards Ocon. Do we have any thoughts on Ocon?
Well, his race was done by like a quarter to the
Yeah.
third of the way through. Like, he was having a good weekend. I will say
Yeah.
that. Both Alpines were having solid weekends,
Yeah.
especially considering how much of a leap the other teams made. So I will say, like, it does look, as far as where they were in the placements, it seemed very average. But other teams had made just bigger advancements, because isn't that just the way it always goes for Alpine? But both of them were having good weekends. And then you cry for Ocon because he had to retire last year as well.
Oh,
And then you cry for Gasly because
Lance Stroll
Stroll
showed up.
didn't shoulder check again, and he was out.
Yeah,
And
honestly, yeah.
Gasly was so cranky. Oh my goodness.
Understandably.
Like,
In
his
the-
radio messages, his poking Carlos, you were just like, dude,
Yeah.
you are in a horrible mood for all the reasons on track, possibly other reasons as well, because, like, boy, was, like, steam coming out of the ears. And it was just like, wow, you should stop talking to, like, everybody and just simmer quietly until you can go to a rage room or something, my dude, because...
Something someone else mentioned, this is not related to the race itself. Anyone here use multi-viewer?
Yeah.
Yeah? Did you
Oh,
see?
is this the track limit tracker?
Yes, they have a track limits window.
That's incredible that has been implemented.
so
It's
snazzy.
never been more possible or more essential than it is now.
And
Truly.
I had
What
a
the
hit
heck?
thread. I had a hit thread where I said I was going to send the drivers coloring books so they could learn to stay in the lines.
Do that before
Yikes.
Austria next year for sure.
Just
Yikes.
saying.
Well, I saw with Austria that they're implementing gravel traps right outside the track
Which-
limits to discourage the drivers from going outside of track limits, which I said, stakes
Yeah.
higher. Yikes. We're going to
But
be
see-
seeing a lot of yeeting.
I feel like that one will have very mixed results because I don't think it's an issue of them like necessarily being. I feel like it's because of the weight of the cars. So many of them were just losing the rear and it's swinging out. So yes, part of their responsibility as drivers is to go slower into the turn. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm not sure how much a gravel trap will solve anything, but that's a problem for next year and a conversation
That's
for
right.
next year.
That's right.
Who else?
That's
Who
right.
else was having a weekend? Aston Martin were kind of just lost in it all this
Yeah.
week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a bit of a
Like-
surprise. It's
They
it's
did-
interesting that Aston in the position that they have, because out of all the top runners, you look at McLaren, Alpine, Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, they have the most wind tunnel testing time, and now we're in the development phase. They are getting swallowed up almost. You would have thought they would be amazing. So, especially after what was it, Canada, where Alonso said that's the last race where we go without a podium.
Yeah.
I thought they were set. So
Have they brought upgrades since then, though?
I don't think so. Are
Yeah,
there some
I don't
major
think
ones?
so. I don't
not
think
that I've heard
so.
of, no.
But Kevin also had a pretty difficult weekend overall, bless him, with his car stopped on track. What was it?
Twice.
Was it quali and
Yeah.
the race?
Yeah.
Quali,
Bless.
it was just off of the pit lane entrance, and then the race, it was down one of the straights.
Yeah,
There's an engine
That's
gone
it.
bye-bye as well.
seriously.
Yes, well, one of the reasons it's speculated why it went on fire the second day is that was an old engine that they popped in.
So that's two engines gone, basically.
Ooh.
Either they just didn't think they had the time to tune, fix whatever that first engine, so they just were like, we have this other one on standby, toss it in, or yes, in one weekend they fully torpedoed two engines.
That's bad.
Power units, sorry. It wasn't specified which part. Overall power unit problem, yes.
So, are we excited that Lewis ended up taking that P3, or do we wish it was Oscar?
I wish it was Oscar.
Excited.
My inner British is
Yeah, I
playing here. I mean, yes, it's Lewis at Silverstone. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't even actually know what like the crowd would have preferred, to be honest. I mean, Lewis has got what? He has what? 8 wins at Silverstone and like 13 podiums,
14.
A
something
lot.
like that.
A lot.
He's
lot.
had one ever since 2014, I want to say. He hasn't missed
Hybrid
a
era.
single year being on the podium since then.
That's crazy.
There's a great picture of him, baby Bottas, and baby Ricardo.
Baby Botas. I love Baby Botas pics.
He's
Love
one of my
him.
favorite baby faces, is baby
Yes.
Bottas. Like, so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I was excited for Lewis because I was like, yay, I know what this means to get this at home. But I was also like, bro, you have so many. This could have been really cool for Oscar.
Closing in on podium number 200. Oscar's like, just give me one. I had
Yeah.
to sit on the sidelines for a year. It was like this close.
Yeah. Plus, he was sandwiched between world champions at one point, just like having to try to overtake one and keep the other behind and just be like, no.
Yeah.
It's so good. I just, his little face and his little radio messages just full of hope, and you're just like, go, do it, do the thing. He almost got it past Max. Like, plus having both him and Lando, like, that is a real comeback. Going from what they were doing during preseason testing of everyone just being like, what is up with your car? And then being like, I don't know what's wrong with the car. And then have it be that they get it right and get both of their cars on the podium.
Yeah, TBT to Bahrain when I think it was Lando had to pit like 5 times to have like the thing fixed in his car every time, and I was like,
The
why
air
do you
pump,
even?
yeah.
Why do you even send him back out? I mean, at this point, he's just limping home. But yeah,
Well, two
Yeah.
things. Thing number one, obviously, you look back when we all made those jokes about McLaren having a tractor and Ricardo being paid 80 million to not drive the tractor,
lol.
and then yeah, that
Turn
that
it
turned out a bit
around.
funny. Yeah, and then the other thing was, Mind blank. Sorry. It'll come back to me.
Yeah. Well,
Continue.
and I
I've
feel like
forgotten.
Lewis is an incredible driver, and I will only ever say good things about his driving ability forever. But also, and I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve it, because he absolutely deserves it. But it also timed out so well for him with the safety car. And like Oscar was fighting, they were both fighting the whole time. But that safety car really helped Lewis, which is why it kind of hurt me for Oscar a little bit. I was like, ugh.
Wasn't it the top 3 missed the safety? Like they just passed the pit entry when that safety car got called. I thought
They had just passed when the virtual got called, but by the time the full safety car got called, I think that was the timing,
Okay.
because they were able to pit under one of the two.
Yeah.
They got freebies. Yeah, they got the freebies.
Yeah.
Those 3. And
guess who had
that,
pitted a lap earlier? Pierre Gasly.
Yep. And it was a beautiful pit stop. I looked at that and I was like, that was smooth. My goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to be French in
Ugh.
Formula One right now. I will say. It's hard
So
to be
hard.
French in Formula One right now.
But
Christina?
their swears are so good in French. Ugh. Yes.
Christina, somebody in the chat would like to know, what are your top 5 car regulation changes to lighten the cars?
Ooh. Okay, well, we're already getting one that's coming, and that's going to be removing one of the regens, the heat one, I believe.
The
Oh,
heat, yeah.
MGUH, yeah.
Yeah.
MGUH.
So we're removing that. That's already going to lighten it up. And I think overall, my big one is I want them just to work towards making the cars smaller and lighter. And so, naturally, if you just try and gear it towards that more petite physique, it'll naturally happen. Yeah.
Okay. And JD, if you look back at some of our other episodes, we actually do a number of episodes where we talk about regulation changes and different ideas and stuff. And you can get both Christina and Caroline's thoughts on those there.
Smaller cars
Totally.
mean smaller tires as well, and that also lightens the weight.
Yeah. Tires are way too big these days. I remember when huge, and all the drivers are complaining about it. And obviously when I do my sim racing as well, you notice it. The tires are massive. You can't see anything. So it's a lot of it's instinct. But the thing I forgot earlier is with McLaren, Mika Hakkinen. How did he know? Because we all laughed at him. Because he said, yeah, McLaren will be the first team to catch Red Bull. And wow.
It's almost like he's an expert in his field, and the rest of us are just
Yeah, why are we
Spectators.
surprised by that? Why would we be surprised that the man that took it to Schumacher would know a little bit about improving cars?
I imagine that it was. I feel like with some teams, they know what they need to fix. Like McLaren knew that they were going to be bad, but they also knew, okay, we know where we need to be in order to succeed, and we know the pathway there. For them, I think it was more just a development timing problem than it was necessarily what is wrong with this car. At least that's the shift that it felt like at the start of this year. Last year, it felt like they had no flipping clue why there was something wrong with the car. But at the start of this year, it very much felt like the car isn't where we want it currently, but it will be. Which, compared to some of the other teams where it's just like the Mercedes of it all, we don't know what's wrong with this car. We'll fix it eventually, probably, because we're a good team that works well together, but we're still at the problem-solving phase. That's a huge difference, I think.
Totally.
Agreed.
And then
We got a question.
only two teams. Oh yeah,
Go ahead.
question first.
Okay.
I was just going to
were
mention
you-
we want to talk about two teams.
Okay. Were you surprised by, I assume he means Williams and McLaren, their pace relative to Red Bull, I guess the increase?
Williams didn't surprise me as much just because I feel like they've been slowly creeping their way up over the last few races. And so I wasn't surprised. I was super excited to see another step forward for them. McLaren surprised me. But I don't think that I really let myself be surprised until quali. When I started seeing the lap times that they were putting in during qualifying, I was like, something might actually be happening. And then it was just the gift that kept giving during the race because we all learned, I call it the Charles Leclerc effect, that my man can throw in a lap time. He can put a lap together in quali and make it fast. But when it comes to the race, that is a different animal. And it's a lot of it's not really Charles, it's more the car, but still. It was nice to see the McLaren being able to hold their own on both ends, putting in fast lap times and finding that race pace. But yeah, more surprised than McLaren, less surprised than Williams.
Williams has always had good straight line speed. And so seeing the length of straights we had in this case and how even through the turns you're keeping a lot of speed, so that means they can get up to those top speeds down the straights faster. Kind of anticipated Williams having a good weekend. With McLaren, we had seen last weekend in Austria, Lando with the upgrades in fourth. And Oscar was kind of where the McLarens had been all the rest of the season. Kind of back there, kind of off in nowhere, like no man land. But in that aspect, it didn't surprise me completely that the McLarens had made a leap forward. That it was up to like qualifying in second and third and getting second and fourth in the race. That definitely surprised me. I thought that they would be like nipping at the tails of that. But I didn't think they'd be like straight up in the mix for the podiums. That was kind of that extra step.
And
Was
this
the big
weekend was the
surprise.
first weekend that Oscar had the upgrades that Lando's had. So we've seen Lando doing well, and Oscar's been kind of like back there. But they've also been trying out a lot of the new upgrades on Lando, and now they've given them to Oscar. And so I'm like, yay! Only up from here. This is great.
Would.
What were you going to say, Christina, about two cars?
We haven't talked about either of the Alpha teams, Romeo or Tauri.
Romeo. Yeah. Valtteri, what was Valtteri's penalty for? I forget.
He didn't
Was
have
it
enough fuel in his car
Yeah,
for
fuel.
testing.
Fuel.
Yeah, the fuel.
He didn't have
after
his
quali.
1 liter of mandatory for gas chromatography analysis.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I had to explain that to one of my friends on the way up, who's like relatively new to F1, and he was like, "How does that even happen? You have one job, just put enough fuel in the car." And I tried to explain to him, you try and make it as little as possible, to save weight and everything. But it does beg the question, if you are in charge of putting fuel in the car, how did you put in too little fuel? Don't you do this pretty much every other week?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know the mechanics of fuel usage in a car, but it could be that on that session, Valtteri used more fuel than they were anticipating. And what
do
sucks
have-
about that is that you don't know until you get in.
You know. They can see the fuel, at least some of the teams, because remember we had Max who got called off of a fast lap because they knew he wouldn't have enough fuel last year, Singapore.
Singapore, yeah.
So I don't know if that was them just crunching the math from the last time he was in the pits, or if they actually have a gauge where they can see how much fuel it is. Because you can see how much fuel is in your car
Right.
at home, and data is always transmitted with F1 cars to their pit walls and their teams. That's the part that frustrates me, and that kind of leaves me boggling. Of just like, it would have been better for the team to call Valtteri back in, so that way he at least was starting the race mid-pack, than all the way at the back.
It could have been lost in a lot of the chaos of the rain, no rain, because it was in like the chaos of Q1 that a lot of it happened. So I don't know. I give some grace in this situation. But what was the question, Buck?
Oh, it wasn't a question. They can adjust their fuel flow, or at least in the video game we can adjust it, where like when you're going on an out lap or an in lap, you can turn that fuel usage down. And they used to let you do it during, and the game tries to match the real world regulations. So in 2020, you could adjust it during the race. So if during the race you wanted to use less fuel, you could turn it down. They've turned that off, and you can only do it during quali. So I'm not sure if what controls the drivers are allowed to have over that. I'm being told by one of our esports race directors that you can adjust for both quali and the race the fuel level now in the game.
Interesting.
So
Oh,
we can look that up and see if that's allowed to do. They're allowed to do that on track during the race too, because that can help them manage that flow.
Totally.
Makes sense.
If you could control the amount of fuel that you consume, then surely Alonso would have done that in Canada instead of lift and coast.
It's a fair point. That's a
Don't
fair
think
point.
you
Lift
can
and
control the
coast.
fuel.
Ooh, this is such a good question. I love it when this
I
happens.
definitely want to search this up, but I don't think, because like you said in the game, you can't control the fuel mix during the race. You can do it on the formation lap.
Okay.
You can't do it in the race.
It's only during safety car you can turn on lean fuel. That's when it is.
That makes sense.
We do have another question from another viewer, JB Jimbo. It's a very long name. We had asked in our poll questions on the last episode what everyone's favorite motorsport movie is.
Is it Apex?
Well, no, mine's a toss-up between Rush and Days of Thunder. But what you two? What are your favorite? Or you three? I'm sorry.
Hi.
Sorry,
Ibrahim's here too.
My screen is the question is posed to the panel here. Favorite motorsport movie?
Yeah. If I have to choose the F1, like just an F1, it's Rush. But if I'm choosing across all motorsport, it's a toss-up between Rush and Ford versus Ferrari. I love that one.
Again, for F1, it has to be Rush. I think it's just beautifully written, you know. And I think Niki Lauda said he was about 80% correct, so obviously some dramatized bits in there. But yeah, Rush for me. If we're talking like any kind of racing, cars. Like that.
You're welcome, you
Oh,
guys.
sorry.
You're welcome, you guys.
She made us
I'm
watch
sure
Cars.
Ibrahim knows. I did.
Yeah.
So
We found out live with live reactions that they had not seen Cars. I said that actually. My family was in town. My in-laws were in town this past weekend, and they're all boys, and they grew up. They can quote the entire Cars movie, soundtrack and all, to
It has an
front to
amazing
back.
soundtrack. Oh,
Yeah, they grew up on it,
Cars
and
was
I
just
told
great.
them. I told them that my co-hosts had not seen it, and they were like, "What?" And I said, "Don't worry, they saw it. They cried. It was amazing."
Okay. Yeah. Cars and Rush.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good
for me.
choices.
Christina?
Ford versus Ferrari was one of like the first motorsport movies I watched. So I think I have to give it to that one because if I have to choose which one to watch, it'll always be that one. Just it was the
It was
first
beautiful.
one.
It was beautiful. I don't know if this counts, but I've heard that the Senna documentary is
Oh yes.
incredible. But I
And
don't know if it counts as-
rewatchable, apparently. People talk about how I've watched it like 10 times.
Huh. Nice. Yeah, I don't know if
Nice.
documentaries count, but all I'm saying is it might be Apex soon because I saw the clip of them filming with Carlos next to Brad Pitt and the other actor that's in it, and I was like, if Carlos Sainz is in this movie,
They're all going to be in it.
I know,
They
but
will,
like,
yeah.
I want him
But
to
as
like.
side
It was
characters.
just him and them, like just the three of them walking in. I was like, this better make it in the movie. That's all I'm saying. This better make it.
Our friend Tom Glover over at the old art house,
Hey, Tom.
he's not here, I don't think. He might
Oh.
be. But he did a reel. He's been doing these reels lately, and I've been a big fan of him. And he does a whole expose on the old 1950s film Grand Prix.
Ooh.
And
yes.
that had some really innovative camera work where they were attaching cameras to the cars and getting footage that had never been seen before. And if anyone's watching, go check out the old art house.
Speaking of footage that's never been seen before, how about these cameras of the feet pedals for the drivers? So cool. I thought that
didn't
was
see
so
that.
cool. Yeah, they put cameras like down by their feet so you could see when they were like braking, when they were accelerating, and
Yeah.
it was actually really cool.
And
I'm
it was like
surprised.
the top view, not the bottom of the foot view like we had previously.
Yeah, I'm surprised that like I don't know. I feel like with all of the secrets inside all of the cars, like I don't know. I'm surprised that they would put a camera inside of one that's allowed. But grateful, #grateful to quote Lewis Hamilton.
I'm kind of surprised enough
blessed.
light gets down
Oh,
there for us to
blessed,
see.
yes. Do what?
There's enough light. You're right. How? Yeah.
But like we see still.
Because
We
you
do?
get a little webcam
Should
with
be
a
pretty dope.
with a little ring light on it.
I was gonna say, do they have
Yeah.
little ring lights down there? What are we gonna do if like, oh my gosh, it'll be like a rave if one of them come loose It'll just be bouncing around. It'll be like a rave down there. That'll be
my
so
God.
crazy.
That's a good point, Gavin.
Oh, man.
Oh,
Well,
and then
it is 3:10, so we do have to wrap it up.
It is not 3:10 Ibrahim's time. Bless his heart.
No.
It's sleepy time.
Yes.
No, I'm all good. I'm all good.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us for this live stream.
Thank
It's
you,
been
yeah.
so fun. As always, send us all the questions. We love to try answering them.
And we'll be back again after Hungary.
Yes.
hungry.
I'm not going to make a hungry joke.
I was just about to make one.
Not going to do it.
I was
Not going to
about
do it.